Is anybody here unfamiliar with the prayers of Brahma to Lord Krishna in Vrindavan? Anybody unfamiliar? There's some newer people, yes? Okay. Well, where to begin? The first, according to the Vedic picture of time, that's a nice place to begin. Time moves in cycles. Everything. Day and night. Seasons, years, phases of the moon. The moon moves through different nakshatras or constellations, making 14-day period, and then 2 of those makes a month, and every time is cyclical. There's really big ones too. The creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the universe, it also moves in cycles. That's a big one. And at the beginning of each universe being manifest, within each universe there's a form of Vishnu that expands to make the universe expand. Prabhupada's explanation is just like the body of a small child will grow or expand because of the presence of a soul within. Without the presence of the soul within, the body doesn't grow or expand. Similarly, within each universe is a form of Vishnu. The basis of his presence within the universe expands. And then in turn, the universe, by the withdrawal of Vishnu and the withdrawal of the time energy, the universe is withdrawn. So when each universe begins, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, there's some events that happen before this. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu expands within each universe. Half of the universe is filled with water, one might say, like perspiration from the body of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And he's reclining on that ocean on a nice, comfortable couch made of Ananta Shesh, a serpent of many hoods, and is providing a very comfortable resting place for him, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. The time energy is still moving. The time energy mixing with the living entities who are within the body of Mahavishnu, because each time, within each universe, one universe's worth of living entities enter into his body as he expands. They're within his body, and the karma of those living entities from their prior existence, with the prior creation, becomes activated. Karma or activity doesn't happen without time. Time is required for karma to become activated. When karma becomes activated, it's still in a dormant state, but that karma of the living entities manifests the collective samasti, it's called, the totality of one universe's worth of living entities, manifests in the form of the stem of a lotus, and on top of the stem of the lotus there's a flower, and on top of the flower appears one living entity out of all the living entities, who is named Brahma. And Brahma appears before there's anything. I mean, there's Vishnu, and there's the ocean of the Garbhodak ocean beneath Vishnu, and above Vishnu it's just darkness everywhere. No sunlight, no moonlight, there's no sun, there's no moon, there's no nothing. Nothing's been created yet by Brahma. So Brahma, being very intelligent, he's very, very qualified jiva, begins self-inquiry. Who am I? Where have I come from? What's my duty in life? And in his inquisitive and intelligent Brahma, hears some splashing beneath. That's the waves of the Garbhodak ocean. So he starts climbing down the stem of the lotus, inductively reasoning that if I find the source of this stem, I'll find out my source. Intuitively, he understands that, so he climbs down and down and down and down and down and finds no end. And then reaches the conclusion, by this method, I'm not going to find out my source. When that realization comes, he hears the syllable ta-pa repeated 3 times. Ta-pa means tapasya, means austerity. So he understands that's a clue. He understands what to do. He goes back up to the lotus flower and engages in austerity. And his particular austerity is mantra meditation. He receives a mantra from the original Saraswati, and then again later another mantra from Krishna. And he chants those mantras for a long time. There's different periods of time, it says, thousands of years, commonly. And something very wonderful happens. In the midst of this dark, because it's pretty lonely, I mean, thousands of years, no light. Doesn't say what when did he eat for prasadam or anything. Just meditating. And darkness everywhere. Then something miracle happens. Lord Vishnu decides, he's very pleased by Lord Brahma, and he manifests his form in the spiritual realm. Not the Vishnu below him, but Lord Vishnu in the spiritual realm. And invites Brahma to come speak with him. He comes before him. And so this is now Canto 2, Chapter 9. Those of you that like to read the Bhagavatam, you can go back and read it again. These sequence of events. And he comes before Vishnu, and there's some exchange between them. Vishnu offers, you please me very much by your austerities. Please accept a benediction from me, whatever you like. So he asks some questions. He wants knowledge. And he also wants protection from false ego. Because intuitively he has now understood he is supposed to help build the universe. Is going to go into that big space. And he wants to be free from the misconception that he's going to build the universe. Now, our service in our lifetime isn't building a universe, but it's something. And whatever that something is, it's very wise to pray to the personality of Godhead to become free from false ego, thinking that we're fill in the blank. I'm an engineer, I'm a doctor, I'm an IT guy, I'm a housewife, I'm a mother, I'm a, whatever it is, and I'm doing this and that and the other thing. He wanted protection from that misconception of false ego, acting through false ego. And then he asked some important questions, and he got very important answers to those very important questions. And he said about the service of constructing the universe. And after constructing the universe, he had the task of populating the universe, upper, middle, and lower planetary systems with living entities. He did that through the assistance of Prajapatis. Pati means father, and Praja means offspring. So fathers of living entities. And living entities aren't just human. there's all the species in upper, lower, and middle planetary systems. That was the second part of his task, or his service. And that was what he did in the morning. But, his day lasts for a long time. According to our calculation of time, because again, time moves in cycles, there's 1,000 cycles of the 4 yugas that make up each day. It is night of his equal duration. So there's more to say, but during each day of Brahma, there's 14 manus, and during manu number 7, which is our present manu, Vaivasvata manu, Vaivasvata manu is indicated not directly by name, but in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says that he long ago taught this science, the Bhagavad Gita, to the sun god, Vivaswan, and Vivaswan taught it to his son, Manu. That's Vaivasvata Manu, is the son of Vivaswan. That's our present Manu. And during the 7th Manu and the 28th Yuga cycle, because you divide 14 into 1,000, and it doesn't come out an even number. That's because there's some juncture between one Manu and the next Manu, and something happens during that juncture, and it's interesting. The 28th cycle of the 4 yugas, during Vaivasvata Manu, Krishna appears in this earthly realm. So Brahma knew that. So Brahma wanted to pay his respects to Krishna. So he came. And when he came to pay his respects to Krishna, he saw one of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. That pastime that he saw, first part, he saw Krishna giving liberation to a many-mile-long serpent, giant serpent named Aghasura. Every time I say his name, I'm thinking about what the meaning of his name is. It's really, what parent is going to call their son Agha? Because he was an Asura, it was Aghasura. That's not a nice name. But anyway, that was his name. And Krishna gave him liberation, and Brahma saw it. And he's at this stage, he's 4 years old. 4 years old, we know, because he was just herding calves. Because when he turned 5, he started taking care of the cows, not just the calves. Because cows are really big, and a 4-year-old boy is small. So he was with all his friends, kind of like the same age, more or less. And they were doing what 4-year-old boys do. They play and play and play and play and play all day long. And at the end of the morning, that's when the Aghasura demon showed up with the plan to kill Krishna, and it worked the other way around. And then the cowherd boys went to have lunch. And while they were having lunch, Brahma was observing from his swan carrier above, seeing the whole scene, wondering how powerful is this little 4-year-old boy. They made some space for you behind. Right behind you. It's a very special seat to get a seat against the wall, I'm telling you. A very coveted seat. You're very fortunate. Favorite seat, I've noticed. He began to wonder, because he's intelligent. It's no problem having that kind of inquisitiveness. It's good. What is the limit? Is there a limit? How powerful is this cowherd boy? That part was okay, but the part that wasn't okay was then he decided to match his power against Krishna's power to see what Krishna would do. He was challenging Krishna. Me against you. That wasn't like nasty, but it wasn't nice either. He kidnapped the calves and cowherd boys and put them in a cave. Now last night I was corrected by a little boy that said he put them in a cloud because he watched a cartoon for kids where he put them in a cloud. So we had a little discussion about that. One authority is Srimad Bhagavatam, another authority is a cartoonist. So which one is the better authority to follow? Because the story actually comes from Srimad Bhagavatam. So Brahma put the calves and cowherd boys in a cave, and when he went back to the place where the cowherd boys were having lunch, he wanted to see what Krishna was going to do. Our commentators say, when Krishna sees me, maybe he'll cry. Maybe he'll say, "Oh, Brahma, I've lost the calves and cowherd boys. Please help me find them." Or I don't know what he's going to do, because he just looks like a little boy. But instead, what he saw was all the cowherd boys and the calves grazing nearby, and the cowherd boys were having lunch with Krishna. He was shocked. So he went back, and there they were in the cave. Then he went back, and there they were having lunch with Krishna. So, what's going on? Now remember, one of Krishna's characteristics is he's Bhakta Vatsala. Bhakta Vatsala means he is very kind and friendly to all his devotees. Very kind and friendly to all his devotees. Bhakta Vatsala. So what did he do? Brahma had a question. He's not going to tell him the answer. He's going to show him. The answer? There's no limit. What's the limit? No such thing with Krishna. Absolutely unlimited. So what did Krishna do? Krishna manifested an exact likeness of all the cowherd boys, and then, with all the cowherd boys still sitting there having lunch, each of those cowherd boys, and there was a lot of cowherd boys, manifested simultaneously forms of Narayana from each of those cowherd boys, meaning the cowherd boys were Krishna, and the form of expansions of Krishna, this new batch at least. And then then Narayana was also an expansion of Krishna, and all the expansions of the expansion of Narayana. All of its potencies, and there's a long list, really long list, and they were all personified. And the personified Vedas, having a big glorification and worship of Krishna concert. Must have been really noisy. And then what happened was, poof, they all just disappeared. Poof. And all that was left was Krishna smiling, looking at Brahma with unblinking eyes, holding his left hand out with still some prasadam in his hand, because he wants to eat with his right hand. So some yogurt and some fruit in his hand. Krishna didn't say anything, but Brahma's very intelligent. He's the most intelligent being. He's the only being in the beginning, and he's the most intelligent being in the universe. So he understood right away what was going on. Krishna was answering his question. He had been offensive. You don't kidnap little boys or cows. And you don't interrupt Krishna's pastimes. It's unlawful and offensive. He's in big trouble. So he knew he was in big trouble. We're going to touch on a verse this evening that expresses his understanding of what happens when you make a big boo-boo like this. You're going to get a reaction. And when you know that the reaction is coming, what are you going to do? Or when reactions do come, what are you going to do? although you may not know what the boo-boo was, what the mistake was that you committed, because of something I have done, here comes some difficult circumstance of life, and how to respond to it. So he's giving some teachings, and Brahma is a very important person for us, particular, because he's the head of our sampradaya. So what he's going to be speaking in these prayers are foundational teachings for all of us. So it's an important section. And he's very humble, as we see in this image here. He's on his knees before a little boy, 4-year-old boy, that's standing there with his left hand extended and smiling, offering. He fainted when he saw this whole scene, and then everything just suddenly disappeared. He understood. It was circuit overload. He just fainted. And then began offering prayers. We heard the first two. We started yesterday evening with prayer number 3. And this is not him speaking. This is our acharyas commenting about what has happened so far. I desire to examine the extent of your potency. I desire to understand how you'll react to my showing my power. In turn, you have shown me such mercy. You've shown such mercy to me by giving me a glimpse of who you actually are. Now, Krishna is inconceivable. So how is one to understand the conceivable? How is one to conceive the inconceivable? It's a contradiction. How one can estimate something that is unlimited, which can produce unlimited entities, each having unlimited potencies. And now the next series of verses is the contrast between the Gyan process and the Bhakti process. So right away, text 3, he's going to discard discount or comparing the two. The Gyan process isn't going to enable him or anyone. And he's the most intelligent, so we don't need to go down that path. It's a celebrated verse. Gyane prayasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadiyavartam stanesta takrutikatam tanavan manobhir ye prayaso jitajito pyasi trilokyam. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social position, that's that stanestatak. So if one is whatever ashram and whatever varna is in, don't worry. You don't have to give that up and take up something. Whatever is suited for you, stane statak. Stay in your position. Throw away the process of speculative knowledge. So, gyane prayasa udapasya. Prayasa means endeavor. Gyane is in relation to jnana. And udapasya means discard it, throw it away, throw it far away. Throw away the process of speculative knowledge. Gyane prayasa udapasya. Namanta eva. Offer respectful obeisances. Namanta eva. With their body, mind, and words. Tanu van manobir. That's the third line. Tanu van manobir. Tanu, the body. Van means speech. Mana, mind. Offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities. Shruti gatam. Dedicating their lives to these narrations. Bhavadiyavartam. The acharyas like that phrase, and they spend some time discussing that phrase. It's bhakti life. Dedicating their lives to these narrations. Dedicating their life to these narrations means it goes inside. you hear, and it goes inside, and it's what inspires the various activities of your life. What you say, tanu van manovir, what you do, and what you contemplate. Such potencies are there in sound, because people do that anyways. They hear something and they live their lives according to what they hear. Or whatever, just hearing music, and it does something to the heart and to the mind, and one does things. One sannyasi was describing, they were looking for for outreach purposes, they were looking for some modern music that could help embellish a message they wanted to present. So they happened to hear some music from the rock and roll days of their youth. And as soon as his young assistant heard it, he started, just hearing the music. I mean, it does something to the body, it does something to the mind, it does something to the speech. So sound vibration is powerful. That's the point. And you hear spiritual sound vibration, and you try to align your life, your heart, your words, your body, your mind to that message. Dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally, like Bhagavad Gita, and by your pure devotees, like Srimad Bhagavatam, Sanmukharitam, certainly conquer your lordship. So there's this prayasa. It's not the same as prayasam, but it's the same verbal root. They conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds. To conquer your lordship means a lot. It's packed. It means the living entity's position, spiritually speaking, is to serve God. If one doesn't serve God, we're going to serve someone else. So constitutionally, we're servants of something or someone. There isn't anybody anywhere in any even species. There's a master and there's a servant. It's just the nature of living entities. In the elevated, purified state, it's service to God. In the covered state, it's service to something else. Prabhupada liked telling the story of when he was invited and he went to Moscow. The person who sent him the invitation was a Indology professor at Moscow University, a very prestigious university in Moscow. Not a popular topic right these days, but anyway, Prabhupada went. And in his discussion with Professor Kotovsky, he said, I asked him this question, you and I are the same. What is that? Why do I say that? Because we must accept a leader. Your leader is Lenin. My leader is Krishna. But everyone has to accept a leader. What's the difference between you and me? And he said, Professor Kotovsky liked his question. He said, you're right. So then we can talk about who's the better leader, Lenin or Krishna. But it's a principle of life, because we're servants. So there must be a master if we're servants. And if one doesn't have a master to serve, you'll find one. You'll get a pet, a cat or a dog, and serve the cat or dog. But it's just the nature. It's not like demeaning. It's just the nature of a living entity. And the master, Krishna, is fulfilling the needs that's described in Scripture. He's fulfilling the needs of all living entities. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. Some of you know that verse from the Upanishads. Nityo, nityanam, singular plural. Nitya means eternal. Amongst all Nityanam, the plural eternals. There's one supreme eternal. Chaitanas Chaitananam, living entities are conscious. And there's a supreme conscious being amongst all conscious beings. And that one that's supreme eternal and supremely conscious, Eko, Bahunam, the Bahunam means many. The one is maintaining the many. Eko Bahunam, Yo Vididati Kaman. Whatever their kamas, their desires, their necessities, there's one that's supplying everyone. That's the relationship. So that Supreme, who is supplying the necessities of everyone, takes a subordinate position to his devotee by love, when the devotee submits themselves in love. It's natural. Natural. It's completely natural. That what he's speaking here is, and it's going to continue, we'll see as I stop expanding on this one nice verse. It's an important verse. The bhakti process is such that the master who is receiving the love and service of the servant, us, he subordinates himself to his servant. He becomes the servant of his servant. But he's the master, always, even when he's the servant of the servant. And it's especially like that in the pastimes in Vrindavan. He becomes subordinate to Mother Yasoda, for example. He's the master, and he becomes dependent. And at the same time, he's behaving as if dependent. He's the master. He shows Mother Yasoda he's the master. She looks inside his mouth and she sees everything. She sees more than what Arjuna saw with the universal form. More because within Krishna's mouth, she saw herself looking inside Krishna's mouth, along with everything else, the mountains and the seas and the planets and everything. Everything. Must have been quite overwhelming. So he's the master, but he's afraid of Mother Yasoda's stick in her hand when she's chasing after him and crying, the Damodar Lila. Krishna's pastimes are wonderful. Kunti, in her prayers, she says, he who is feared by fear personified is afraid of that little stick in Mother Yasoda's hands. Now, it would be really easy. It would be really easy to say Krishna was just like an actor in a drama, and he was just faking the tears in his eyes. That's okay. It's okay. Now is the time for me to cry. Boo-hoo, and he's crying. But it wasn't that. He was afraid, and out of fear. He was a transcendental, not the worldly kind. Out of love. He's controlled by Mother Yasoda. So much so he's crying with a little skinny stick. Like, lati. Not a big thick stick, just one little skinny stick. So she throws it away because she doesn't want to see him cry. Anyway, his pastimes are like that. And Brahma is having that realization, and he's expressing it. You are conquered by love. And the love starts with hearing and dedicating oneself to the topics about Krishna's personality and his activities, exactly what it says here, and dedicating their lives. There's a verse that's later spoken by Krishna to Uddhava in the 11th canto Bhagavatam, where he says exactly that. The means to achieve the highest stage of bhakti is, with faith, hearing topics about me. So just hearing Bhagavatam with faith. Pretty simple. It's not like expensive, and it's not, you don't have to be a great scholar, or you have to be wealthy. You don't have to be anything. just hear with attention, not blind faith, but how wonderful is my Krishna. That kind of faith. Let me hear the wonders of Krishna. His loving exchange, his everything, his beauty, his kindness, his compassion, his protection. This verse is such a celebrated verse that we find it being discussed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this painting. This is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You know who is Lord Chaitanya? Okay, good. And over here, embracing him is Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy was the governor of now Chennai, then Madras, at least when the Bhagavad Chaitanya Charitamrita was translated. And it was part of the kingdom of the king of Orissa. So the kingdom of Orissa extended down that far. And he was the governor. And behind him, over there on the left, are some of his ministers. And they're like, what's going on here? Because there was such this outpouring of affection between this young sannyasi, now just around 25 years of age, and their governor. They knew that he was very learned, but they didn't know, about this. So they stopped because they could see it was confusing the ministers of the governor, and they made an arrangement to meet privately in the evening by the side of the river here. There's a really nice little place where they sat and had their conversation. We visited there. And the discussion between them began with the sannyasi asking the grahasta spiritual questions. It's usually the other way. But he wanted, through the mouth of Ramananda Roy, to hear him speak conclusive truths. He was like a ventriloquist or a puppeteer moving strings. So his question was, starting point of their discussion was, what's the goal of life and the means to achieve it? And that's where they started. Not like, what's happening in Ukraine and what's the latest from Donald Trump and who won this sports event and what's happening with the stock market and whatever else is on people's minds. It's what's the goal of life and how to achieve it. Key verses by the learned Ramananda Roy were cited. Number 5, each one, Lord Chaitanya said, that's all right, but that's not the essence. Go further, go further, go further. And he accepted this verse. It's so important. The goal of life and the means to achieve it. And he said, the statement in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, pure devotional service without any touch of speculative knowledge, that's Gyane Prayasa Udapasya, is the essence of perfection. And the means to achieve it is hearing from the right source, from Krishna himself, or from those who are his pure devotees. There's a similar exchange that took place between Hamsa Avatar, and he's speaking to Lord Brahma, and you see at the feet of Brahma there's the 4 Kumaras. They also heard, where there's a discussion that's going to come up shortly in Brahma's prayers, where he says, in essence, Hamsa Avatar, if we don't see the factual relationship between matter and Krishna, we're not seeing accurately. Or in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada writes in his purport, the Mahabhagavata, the advanced devotee, certainly sees everything mobile and immobile, but he does not exactly see their forms. Rather, everywhere he immediately sees manifest the form of the Supreme Lord. So this is very elevated. The goal of life, or the perfect stage of consciousness, is there's a source of everything. Krishna is that he already showed to Brahma. He's the source of all those things he saw. They're just his expansions, his personal expansions. There's energetic expansions, and that's everything. So there's a relationship with everything, the source of everything. And so when you see this topmost stage of devotion, you see everything. You see the something, but you see it in relation to Krishna. You see the Supreme Lord present. Prabhupada gives this example. It's a nice example. Supposing someone who's a parent sees the baby shoes of their child. Now, there was a time when I was growing up, it was kind of like a fashion that from people, the rear view mirror, people's cars, they would hang the shoelaces, then the baby shoes of their child. Now it's other things, but air fresheners and CDs, and now it's masks. But there was a time when people would hang their baby shoes so when they see the Prabhupada's statement is the loving parent, when they see the baby shoes, they don't just see their shoes, they see their child in that baby state. I mean, what does that mean? That's a not perfect being seeing their child. But an advanced devotee, it's not just kind of mental sentiment and attachment. They see Krishna. They see he's the source. Or expanding on this, here's a painting of a nice big tree. Look how big the tree is. There's a little horse down there. The Krishna conscious person does not see the tree, but sees Krishna present. That is Krishna consciousness. You don't see the tree, you see Krishna. You see the tree. You see what's what. You don't become, mad. But you don't just see the tree. You see it in relation to Krishna, or depending if you're Lord Chaitanya, you see a sand dune and you see Govardhan Hill. And then you see Krishna on the side of Govardhan Hill, and you go running after Krishna. That's if you're in transcendental state, like the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, a similar thing is a comment on this verse is made by Sanatana Goswami. Some of you know who Sanatana Goswami is. One of the 6 Goswamis, right? Okay. He wrote a commentary. He wrote several commentaries on the Bhagavatam. One of them was just on the 10th canto. And commenting on this verse in the 10th canto, Sanatana Goswami writes, the Svetashvatara Upanishad states, Tam eva viditva. Freedom is possible only by understanding Brahman. Well, what if someone isn't so intelligent, can't read the Vedas and can't understand the Vedas, and how are they supposed to get freedom? And the answer, he writes, this verse answers the question. Just here. You have to be super scholar. You can be a very simple person. A very simple person. You can be illiterate and have love for Krishna. By absorption, most of you know this nice narration from Lord Chaitanya's pastimes when he was traveling in South India. One of the places he visited in South India was Sri Rangam. He stayed there for the 4 months of the rainy season. While there, he went every day to see Ranganath. One day he saw a Brahmin sitting there reading Bhagavad Gita, and he was crying. And he went and asked the Brahmana, my dear Brahmana, what is it that you're reading? And the Brahmana said, you're a respectable person. Why are you making fun of me? He said, I'm not making fun of you. I see you're crying and you're reading Bhagavad Gita. So he understood he was genuinely asking. He said, I'm illiterate. But my spiritual master instructed me to read Bhagavad Gita, the entire Bhagavad Gita every day. So I do it. And Lord Chaitanya said, but if you're illiterate, then can you understand it? And why are you crying? He said, although I try, but although I can't properly pronounce anything or read anything, in my mind, I see the picture of Krishna, the personality of Godhead, driving the chariot of Arjuna. And seeing that image in my mind, I can't help myself when I begin to cry. And Lord Chaitanya said, you're the real scholar of Bhagavad Gita. You don't have to be a Gyani. That's the point. Supposing you're not a Gyani. I know some people that say they even have a hard time regularly reading. I mean, once they get into the habit of regular reading, it's different. They're wonderful devotees. It's good to regularly read. But if you're not understanding everything, don't worry about it. Just have faith and dedicate yourself to that sound vibration, and cleansing will go on. Next, we're going on now. This is a transition to the next verse. No, there's a couple more. By the hearing process, we develop such a loving, trusted relationship with Krishna that he will say, I am like this. You wanted to see me as I am. You wanted to serve me. Such a deep desire for so long, and I have tested you so many times, and you only chose me. Now here I am. So that's it. Now here I am. That's where you conquer the one who cannot be conquered. Oh Krishna, oh Ajita, you are conquered by this path. Let me say more about this glorious process in contrast to Gyan. So he's the head of our sampradaya, giving maximum weight to the bhakti process. It's not that that Jnana is unimportant. Let's be clear about that. But Jnana without bhakti is not going to give Krishna consciousness, is not going to give realization of truths about Krishna Tattva. There's many of you know Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. You heard that name before? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya? No. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was Mr. Super Scholar. And he was the leading scholar in the kingdom in Puri, all of Orissa. Puri was like a place of worship, but the king of Orissa had a big, big tract of land that he was ruling. And his main scholar in his own kingdom was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wasn't a devotee. Sarvabhauma is a title that indicates one who is very learned. Sarvabhauma. And similarly, Bhatta is a learned person. Acharya, so he's like a triple smart man. There's this long story, but he became, by Lord Chaitanya's association, he became a devotee of Krishna. Because he was such a scholarly person, in Sanskrit he wrote 100 verses glorifying Lord Chaitanya. And one of those verses begins, not Jnana Vairagya. Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. Vairagya, renunciation. Vairagya, Vidya means knowledge, similar to the word Jnana. Vairagya Vidya, Nija Bhakti Yoga. Nija means his own devotional service. Lord Chaitanya taught how to engage in devotional service to him as Krishna, accompanied with Vairagya. His followers were detached vairagis, not materialists, vairagya, vidya, and enriched with knowledge. But knowledge that arises from and is supported by bhakti, not knowledge or gyan that stands alone. So, in contrast to gyan, that's the standalone kind, the bhakti process is especially appreciated by the head of our sampradaya in these prayers to Krishna. Here's text 4, or prayer number 4. Shreya Shritim Bhaktim. Shreya is the best. Shritim Bhaktim. Devotional service unto you is the best path for self-realization. There's this word udasya again. If someone gives up that path, devotional service path, udasya, that path, and engages in the cultivation of speculative knowledge, the reverse of the previous verse. Instead of giving up Gyan and taking up Bhakti, if you give up Bhakti and take up Gyan, and engages in the cultivation of speculative knowledge, he will simply undergo a troublesome process. Klishyanti means, you get troubles, problems, endless problems. Klishyanti, and will not achieve his desired result. There's this in green, it's kleshala, is similar root as kleshyanti, similar Sanskrit root. He just gets trouble. Simply undergoes the troublesome process, he gains only trouble. So what's it compared to? It's a metaphor. As a person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot get grain, one who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. His only gain is trouble. So people that grow up in the West don't know so much about husking wheat. I had a very nice experience, very lovely experience, going to Vrindavan and watching, because wheat is more popular in that part of India than it is in South India. Rice is more popular. There's something about one makes the body warm, the other makes the body cool. So wheat is very popular in UP. So when it's harvest time, it's really fantastic, because the whole, many families go out and they cut, and then they thrash. And the thrashing is just a party. I mean, they take a bundle and they move around a flat stone and sing songs about Krishna. And they thrash it, and the rice goes, the wheat goes all over the place, and then later they go and collect the wheat. But so when they're all done, it's just, then there's the chaff. So if you thrash the chaff, the empty husk, you're not going to get, because the wheat's already taken out. All you get is sore hands. So there's an image of wheat, and there's the image of the empty husks. So you just thrash the empty husks, and you're just going to get sore hands. But you'll get, so klishyanti, you get trouble, and only misery, kleshala. But no labhyate, labdhaye, no real benefit. Self-realization doesn't come by that method. Next. O Almighty Lord, in the past, many yogis in this world achieved the platform of devotional service. Now it's going to speak karma phala tyag. Chapter 3 Bhagavad Gita, but an expanded version in the form of these prayers. Yogis, so that means they know how to fix their mind by yoga practice, because the Hatha Yoga and all that stuff is just to help come to the stage of concentrating the mind. So those yogis that have also combined that yoga practice with detached work, by offering all their endeavors unto you and faithfully carrying out their prescribed duties. Means not everybody that does yoga has the same nature. Some may be of this and that and the other nature. But they may come to that position through such devotional service, perfected by the process of hearing and chanting about you. That's the operative part that he spoke about in verse 3. Hearing. So detachment from the fruits of work, mind fixed upon the Supreme, and hearing. They came to understand you, O infallible one, and could easily surrender to you and achieve your supreme abode. Then there's a contrast. Text number 6. Non-devotees, however, cannot realize you in your full personal feature, because personal is, Krishna reveals his personality to those that are, anyone can reveal their personality to someone who's personal with him. They'll not disclose their personalness to persons who aren't like that. It's where do we get that tendency? It's Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavra mudoyam nabijanati. I reserve the right to not disclose myself to such people. He's there, but they can't understand, or they deny, or something. Non-devotees, however, cannot realize you in your full personal feature. Nevertheless, it may be possible for them, may not also, to realize your expansion as the impersonal Supreme by cultivating direct perception of the self within the heart. That's one type of meditation process where the yogi wants to meditate upon the supersoul, but their real interest is not connecting with supersoul, it's connecting with the impersonal feature of the Supreme. I mean, some are meditating upon the Paramatma and they become Paramatma realized, and some not. But they can do this only by purifying their mind and senses of all conceptions of material distinctions. In big letters at the bottom of this slide is avikriyat, which is very similar to the word that we use in ISKCON all the time, which is upadi, which means designation or covering. Designation or covering. Like, I'm wearing the cloth of a sannyasi. But doesn't mean I am a sannyasi. It's an ashram, and someone else is whatever they are besides ashram. One may be, young or old, or man or woman, or intelligent or unintelligent, or tall or short, or fat or skinny, or American or Indian, or Chinese, or whatever. And that's not who we are. That's an upadi, or the word that's used here, avikriyat. Become cleansed or freed from all conception of material distinctions and all attachment to material sense objects, like I and mine. Very simple. Aham and mama. Free from material conceptions of who I am and free from material conceptions of mine. So what's mine? It's really easy. If I'm this body, what's mine is what comes from the body. So, my money, my home, my family, my stuff, my paraphernalia. Mine, I and mine. And then one's busy getting more mine. And then it's all taken away from you. It wasn't really yours to begin with. The one who's freed from that conception, attachment to it, not just being the enjoyer of sense objects, but the objects. It doesn't mean you throw them away. Here's a computer and this nice screen and all this rigmarole. Oh, look at this spaghetti on the floor here. All these wires, and they all do something. So we're using them in service to Krishna. Not with the conception of it's mine or I'm meant to be the enjoyer of it. We're using it in Krishna's service. That's the proper use of things. Or in the language of Rupa Goswami, that's complete detachment. Now, it's near mama instead of aham mama. It's near mama. Nothing is mine. It all belongs to Krishna. Let's offer it to Krishna. And use it favorably in Krishna's service. Now, there's a risk when you use things favorably in Krishna's service. You may end up in the ditch because you may start thinking, I want to be the enjoyer of this thing that's meant for Krishna's service that you didn't have before, and now it's in your hand. So you have to be careful when you're engaging things in Krishna's service. Because when Krishna sees that you're capable, he'll give you. But then if you become complacent, then it becomes mine, and I start to be the enjoyer of it. And then you're covered again. Better to not have. Only in this way will your impersonal feature manifest itself to them. And that's not the top of the mountain. That's okay. It's a transcendental position is to go beyond the material conception of things, but not yet in the personal conception of things, in a detached and, like it says here, perceiving the self with a capital S within the heart. A neutral state. Devotional service is beyond neutral. It's active and making a practical and personal connection. So we covered verses 3, 4, 5, and 6. And let's see if I'm going to stop there because at the time and see if there's some discussion. And we have a little microphone for people who would like to comment something or inquire something.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I just wanted a clarification. The speculative knowledge means that which does not align with the scriptures or doesn't come from the scriptures.
That's one kind. There's others. The speculative knowledge may be, I'm Mr. Scholar, and I go to the Vedas, and I use my Mr. Scholar power to discern what's in the Vedas. It may be in reference to the Vedas, and then I derive a meaning that's not the meaning, because I'm Mr. Scholar. And I do what scholars do. They derive some meaning that's not there, or is not the intended meaning. Are you all right with that?
Yes, Maharaj. So sometimes people get realizations.
People get realizations.
Okay. Can that be the revealed knowledge, or if they are not following the devotional path, it is still a speculative knowledge?
Well, when you say this, the devotional path, it's a principle, it's not an ism, not a doctrine, it's a principle, devotional path. In that sense, then it's fine. It's not speculative knowledge. I'll say the same thing in a different way. Krishna is unlimited, and through the course of time and history, Krishna makes different arrangements for different people in different cultures to get some indication of him. And they have different realizations of him. So we don't call that speculation. Now, it may be less complete or more complete. I'm speaking in a broad sense of the realization of persons who are following a devotional path of one kind or another. Just like take the four disciplic successions. There's differences. And those differences are rooted in that tradition that comes from the head of the sampradaya. For example. So if your question is persons from different sampradayas or different devotional paths, they have their realizations. That's fantastic. It's not speculation. Do you have something particular in mind when you're asking this question?
No, Guru Maharaj, I'm trying to understand what exactly is the speculative knowledge and the difference between...
Speculative knowledge and realization?
Yes.
To have realization requires qualification. And Krishna reveals himself according to, for those who are qualified. So the starting position is to become qualified for realization. So let's take the Brahman from Sri Rangam. What was his qualification? He had a realization. Krishna takes a subordinate position to his devotee Arjuna. And that's such a loving nature that Krishna has. He was crying. That's a realization. But he was within a devotional path on the order of his guru to read Bhagavad Gita every day, although he was illiterate. So that's an example, and that's not speculation.
So it has to align with some authority of scripture.
Yes. Now, there's a rule, and there's even exceptions to such a rule. The exception to such a rule is demonstrated by the character of the person, their exclusive devotion to Krishna. Mai chananya yogena bhaktir abhyavicharini. The rule is one has to acharya upasana. I'm quoting terms from chapter 13 Bhagavad Gita. But there are persons that have had realization that there's no clear idea who the guru is that instructed them in this particular way, but they have realization. But their faith is very strong. And their consistent devotion is very strong. So those are the exception, and there's the rule. Prabhupada's example of the rule and the exception is you may get an honorary degree from Oxford University, but don't count on it. They gave an honorary degree to Elton John. And they can do it. I don't know why they did that, but they probably had some reason. But that's not the standard. The standard is you make an application, you get accepted, you go to classes, take the exam, you get a graduation certificate. Like that's the material example. So in the devotional side, the standard is from authority down. And particularly from guru, that's the standard. There are examples of persons who heard and became perfected. or exhibited throughout their life the very exceptional characteristics of exclusive devotion, Ananya Bhakti.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Okay. You got to press that little magic button there. Give it to a teenager, she'll help you.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for the class. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please
Hare
accept
Krishna.
my humble obeisances. So one of my questions is along those lines. You mentioned about realization and qualification. Does one is a prequel to the other, or it can happen in any?
Nice question. Does realization make you qualified, or does qualification come before realization? Well, Krishna can give realization without qualification. That's the exception. But the rule is, one who is qualified, then Krishna gives realization. Let's go way, way, way up because I just read something that really inspired me. And I meant to forward it to Shankadari, and I forgot. But it's just, there's a nice expression in Brihat Bhagavatamrita. Have you heard of that book? And Sanatana Goswami, the author, is describing at the stage of prema, there's utter humility. And he then gives commentary where he says, they're so, actually it's a verse, they're so intertwined that one can say one is the cause and the other is the effect, and vice versa. So, like your question, down, 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 qualification and realization. One is the cause and one is the effect, and there is some interaction. Let's just say, even in the beginning stage, I was meeting today with a lawyer. He's a nice Catholic man. He's helping us with some situation. And he said, all the devotees I've interviewed, everyone says the same thing. That just being in the presence of Prabhupada was this amazing experience. He was it's like a mystical experience. So it's one who has that experience of whatever moves their heart. It's some realization. Now, what was their qualification for that realization? They just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and Prabhupada came along and they had this realization, had an experience. But then one can become more qualified, more realizations, up to. So preliminary, according to Rupa Goswami's The Sequence of the 9 Stages of Bhakti, number 1 is preliminary faith. That's a qualification. Got it? And then comes Krishna sends some sadhu. Oh, he wants, or she wants to get closer to me. Let me send one of my representatives. And then when that representative's association, some experience, some realization.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Like I do chanting, but Krishna doesn't come. So how will I see Krishna?
Do it again.
I do it again at 200, but he doesn't come.
You're calling for Krishna, but he doesn't come? That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Well, maybe he does come and you just don't have the eyes to see him. I was just hearing Prabhupada in a recorded lecture today describing in Vrindavan, he comes as the form of the holy name, Nama Rupa. Nama Rupa. So you chant, but I chant too, and yours and my consciousness is such that I don't perceive Krishna, although he's there, and in his fullness. And Rupa means form, Nama Rupa. Kali Avat, it says he in this age of Kali, he comes in the form of his name. Avatar, you know what that word means? One who descends from the spiritual realm to this realm is avatar. Like Lord Ramachandra, he's an avatar. Nrsimha is an avatar. Vamana is an avatar. Varaha is an avatar. Buddha is an avatar. Those who appear in this world and show their form, that's avatar from the spiritual world. So in this age, it's Nama Rupa, the form of the name. So you can't see. But you're not like, there's something wrong with you. You're like all the rest of us. Because we're covered, we don't see. But he's there. And when we become cleansed, then we can see. Our great acharyas, they see and they describe. We're not there yet, but through their association, we can get to be like them. Would you like to be like them? And see, when you chant, you can see Krishna. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Stay with it. You're very fortunate in that you're young and you're introduced to this process at such a young age. I wasn't so fortunate like you. So take that good fortune and use it wisely. You're very fortunate.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I was remembering when you were reading these verses.
Something's wrong with the sound. What's wrong?
I'm remembering.
It sounds muffled. What's the reason? Try again.
Yeah. When I was hearing these verses, I was remembering the nectar of devotion, pure devotion service definition. Anya Vilashita Sunyam Gnana Karmadi Anavritam Ankulyan Krishna Anushiranam Bhakti Uttama. So the clarification I'm seeking is about there in that context of the definition. My understanding was we're cultivating pure devotion service, and the higher stages of that is that I just stick to my pure devotion service practices.
Your highest stage of that is what?
That I stick to pure devotion service practices. Like I have
you
faith.
seek to view devotional service as practical?
Stick to them or adhere to them.
You speak. Respect. Stick with the process. Okay.
Yeah. Like
I don't know why I'm having a hard time understanding.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Basically, having firm faith that just by doing devotion service, without going to karma path, without going to gnana path, then everything will come, all success will come in devotion service. that is what I understood in that context. So in these verses from Brahma's prayers, when he's talking about without jnana, without speculation, does that also mean he's primarily talking about like how not going to the practices of jnana yoga, like severe austerities or endeavors without bhakti, or speculating without devotion, like is that meaning specifically the practice of bhakti, jnana yoga, like that Brahma is talking about, or
Keep it simple. Do yourself a favor. Keep it simple. And my response is going to be simple. You may not be satisfied, but it's simple. What to Gyane Prayasa Udapasya means where there's no primary support or presence of bhakti. Bhakti meaning to try to please Krishna, to recognize there is a supreme person, and my existence is to serve the supreme person favorably. When that's missing, that's the Gyan that's to be thrown away. And there are persons who rely very heavily on their Gyan process, which is similar to your question. They just rely on their prowess to understand the Supreme, and even to understand the Supreme Person. If they accept there's a Supreme Person, so supposing they make reference to the Vedas and accept and they try to understand the Supreme Person by Gyan process, by their power of speculation. Some people are endowed with very interesting speculative powers, and they may apply that towards the Supreme. Commentators on the Bhagavad Gita do it all the time. Is that all right? Okay. Okay, looks like we're ready to close. Srila Prabhupada ki? Jai.